Hey everybody, we're here with the Summer Soccer League show on Equal Time. We are lucky to be joined today by one of the founding players for Aurora FC, Kristelle Yewah. Welcome, Kristelle.
Hello, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah, we're so excited. I mean, everybody is pumped about the upcoming season. So I have to ask first, just how did you hear about Aurora, and how did you end up, getting connected to trying to go try out?
Yeah, okay. So at my school, I'm in the dental school at the University of Minnesota. There's like a quite a few of us that just kind of play soccer for fun. We also have like a rec league that we play on. And one of my good girlfriends actually is she went to Augsburg University and played soccer there. So she has a little bit more connections in the Minnesota soccer world, I would say.
Uh-huh.
And I had been talking to her, funny enough, just about like, oh, I wish there was some type of like summer team around here. Like when I was in Michigan, I used to play, and it was just so fun to still have that like competitive side and things like that. And randomly in January, she just sends me like something on Instagram, and she's like, "You have to go. Like you have to try out." And I'm like, "What even is this? Like, who are they?" No, like nothing about it. But she just sent me the tryout info.
Shout out that who is this friend?
It
Let's
was
give her some
Abigail
credit.
and Richie.
Shout out to Abigail. Yeah, that I love that. Well, and it was exciting to go. So I went to that tryout. I met you briefly,
Hmm.
and it was so interesting. It was the middle of winter. It was the morning on a Saturday. Like it. I just kept thinking, gosh, like how are these women kind of ready to just start trying out for this team right now?
Yeah.
So what was that like? Like what did you expect? And I wonder, have you ever had to go to a tryout like that before, like an open tryout?
I'm trying to think. I haven't really had to do, I guess, like an open tryout in a while, just because obviously, like college, And
Yeah.
normally with those teams in our undergrad, it was kind of like word of mouth, like, oh, they just talk to your coach. Your coach kind of
Mm-hmm.
tells you, like, hey, this coach wants you to play for this summer team. Like, you should do it to stay in shape. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
sounds good. Like, I'm
Uh-huh.
just a 19-year-old with not much else to do in the summer, so why not?
Yeah.
And so with this, I guess I didn't really know what to expect. And I honestly was just kind of interested to see like the level of competition and all that stuff around it. And then obviously, I'm not in the same shape I was when I was like 18. So I was
Uh-huh.
definitely interested to see how I was going to hold up.
I was going to ask you, when was the last time before that? Because, of course, we also, I mean, people were a little more open last summer, but, like not every sports league was even going. So, like,
Hmm.
when was the last time you played, even a small sided soccer game before that?
I played a little bit in the fall. I was on a team and we did 11v11. So
Okay.
I was able to get some of the running in, but obviously there's nothing like that competitive like 11v11, especially with everyone who's trying to make a team. So that was definitely a wake up call for my body, I can say.
Yeah. Well, so, and it was a very nice thing for me after that tryout because there were multiple players who I thought looked good, but I was like, gosh, the only player I think I'd be certain that they might sign is Kristelle. And so I'm glad to know I was right, at least that about your
Thank
talent
you.
assessment. But um, for you going in after that tryout, how did it actually come to be you being on the team? Like, was it just a call from the coach, and how long did you have to wait, and kind of, tell me your thoughts when you got that news?
So I think it was about, I want to say 2 weeks. Honestly, the time back then kind of all just blends together.
Yeah.
But I got a call from the coach, and she was kind of like, oh, we saw you, we really liked you, and like we wanted to offer you a spot in the team. And I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, wow, okay, like nice. And then, I'm just like thinking immediately, like, do I even have time with school? But I'm like, I'm just
Uh-huh.
going to say yes, and I'll figure it out later, like figure out the rest later. Because I know how bad, like, I wanted to play and get back into that like competitive side of soccer that I
Mm-hmm.
missed so much. So I was just so excited, honestly, and thankful for the opportunity. So I just said yes, and I'm like, everything else, but it'll fall into
You
place.
work it out. I love it. Yeah, sometimes you have to go with your heart. And for you with the team, I'm curious, like, what conversations you've had with the coaches, or just for you, like, what is your expectation of like the role to play on the team, or like, how you're obviously someone with a lot of experience, and like
Hmm.
in a little more in life as well. You're not like a college freshman. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
like, for you going in, how do you see your role in the team, and what do you think you'll bring, to Aurora?
Yeah, so we haven't had like the direct discussion, I guess. I know we have like some small group meetings with the coaches coming up, so we'll probably have more of that then. But personally, I think probably just bringing, a different side of like leadership or maybe like leading by example, just because, like you said, I have experienced probably more things than some of these girls on the team and even just like been through a complete like college season and then life after college as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like life of not being a student athlete and then now I'm kind of going back into like being an athlete again. So just I guess like lessons I've learned that I use from soccer in the real
Mm-hmm.
world and then also real world lessons that apply to soccer as well.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine like for someone like you, especially who hasn't got to play like in a structured way in a while, it'll
Mm-hmm.
kind of be like you girls don't know how good you have it. Like I missed this, like you get to
Yeah,
be back into it. So I
exactly.
suppose you're going to have a real passion about getting, and it's also, I mean, I'm guessing you probably had, some good crowds at Michigan State. I don't know,
Yeah.
but this might be another level too, in terms of like getting to experience, the few thousand, what it looks like, maybe a few thousand fans at Aurora games
Mm-hmm.
too.
It's so funny because I like the teams I played on in the summer, like these type of leagues. Like I don't know if my parents really came to those games because they were just so like, oh, like I had to play summer soccer to like stay in shape, Dad. Like you
Uh-huh.
don't really have to come. Like just come to my college games.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of had that mindset going into this. I guess not really realizing like how big it is, especially for just like
Right.
Minnesota and Minneapolis, because there hasn't been anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
So there are for sure some nerves
Yeah,
just
well, it's
because of how many people I guess they're like projecting to be coming to games. So I'm like, I
uh-huh.
haven't had to be nervous for a game in a really long time.
Yeah, it's exciting for everybody. I'm sure people at the team are really anxious to have that first game because they've already sold, I know, like at least 50% capacity. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
they're getting close to like 3,000 just already tickets. So it'll be fun. Yeah, it's hard to know what to expect.
Exactly.
It's going to be an environment kind of it. I'm sure it's hard to
Yeah.
project what it'll be like. Yeah. Well, and talk about one other thing obviously unique about Aurora, and it's something that I don't think you could disconnect it from the hype we're talking about. A reason people get so excited is because, the majority of the founders are women, the coaching staff is all women. And so there's just a real positive energy at a time when obviously the women's game is growing a lot. So I'm just curious for you, like what it means and if if it contrasts with your past experience of like, I don't know. Have you played on teams where you've had female coaching staffs before, or is that something that drew you to this squad?
I have played on teams like my last or Michigan State. The two assistant coaches were both female, and then but like my undergrad, sorry, my high school like club teams was male led, and so I don't know. I think it's exciting to see like women and how much of like of this program and just like team is led by women. Even I feel like there's a lot of female community like
Mm-hmm.
members as well.
Right.
And just to see the excitement from them, I think it's good for especially like the younger girls and stuff, just like
Mm-hmm.
the soccer kids and the soccer world, just to see this as well and kind of maybe get them like
Mm-hmm.
excited for something. Because obviously there's the Minnesota
Mm-hmm.
United team, like the men's team, but girls can't play for that team or like look forward to playing for that when they get
Right.
older and like maybe aspire to go pro one day or something. So this is kind of like a glimpse of hope, I guess you could say, for especially the
Mm-hmm.
younger kids and the younger girls. So I think it's really exciting, and I definitely want
Yeah.
to be a part of something like that as well.
Yeah. Practice your autograph, Kristelle. You're gonna have to sign some autographs at those games.
Oh gosh.
There's no way. There's gonna be tons of kids there. There's no way you're not gonna be asked for some autographs. I have no
Oh
doubt.
man.
And maybe people want to be friends with the dentist too, like they do, like a mechanic. It's good to have a dentist in your circle. Yeah, so
Exactly.
well,
Gonna try
I'm
to
going to take a
recruit
quick
some patients.
I don't yeah exactly, yeah, it goes both ways. So I'm going to take a quick break to read an ad from our sponsor, Pence
Okay.
Homes. This week's episode is brought to us by Pence Homes. It's a real estate team with Keller Williams, and Matt personally has experience working with Nate and Lydia when they sold their home now the year before last. Nate's been a supporter of local soccer community, including as an owner of Minnesota Aurora FC. We also enjoyed working with one of their preferred lenders, Angie Shearer and Luminant Financing. If you guys have house questions, whether selling, buying, need a furnace or flooring person, shoot them a message at pencehomes.com or at Pence Homes. So thanks Pence Homes for supporting us. So let's go back, Kristelle. How did you end up at Michigan State? And I have to say, I know reading about your recruitment, you might have grown up being a fan of a different team from Michigan. So I that kind
Yes.
of caught my ear. That was interesting.
So, disclaimer, I did grow up a Michigan fan
Uh-huh.
because my dad went there. So,
Yeah.
that's just like go blue is what we knew inside my house. But it's funny
Mm-hmm.
because we lived like 10 minutes away from downtown East Lansing.
Right.
But I didn't really go to like many games or sporting events there. Like we would drive around when there was football games and stuff, but never really went to a game.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably wasn't until high school, some of my friends would like take me to games and I'm like, okay, like
Mm-hmm.
I guess being especially like on the college campus is way different than just like being a person that like lives around and
Mm-hmm.
and so then my high school soccer team was actually we were a pretty good team and we made it to the state championship my sophomore year and that
Uh-huh.
game happened to be at Michigan State.
Yeah.
And so we got to play at DeMartin Stadium. And I just remember like looking back then and I was like, yeah, I think I do want to come here because
Yeah.
they've been recruiting me a little bit. But then I think after that game was probably when I was more like, okay, I think this is like where I want to be. And just having the fans close by, the community and everything, I kind of
Mm-hmm.
wanted to stay with that and be close enough so that
Mm-hmm.
my family could come to the games. Like I have a lot of, friends and family just like around the area, obviously from growing up there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I wanted to be close to home. And I knew that me playing soccer would be like enough of a distraction for that, like I would make new friends outside of just like people in the same
Right.
area as me. And I'd
Right.
be traveling and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and were there, I forget, did I read, were there other people from your high school who've gone to Michigan State too? Is that a connection locally?
Yeah. So there's actually a girl, her name was Sarah Coban. She was 2 years older than me. And so she went there and she was there before me, so I'd come, watch their games and stuff. And then even my sister's about 4 years older than me. There was a girl in her class, Kelsey Mullen, that went to Michigan State as well. So there had been like a
Mm-hmm.
few, Michigan State girls, and I was like, well, might as well keep it going.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and what stands out now? Because especially like those of us, who've been in college and left, especially like in the near term, you have so many fond memories of of those developmental years. And I'm curious for you, like it could be both for soccer games and just for being at Michigan State. Like what stands out most when you think back? Probably homework for pre-med, I'm guessing. But what stands out to you for Michigan State?
Honestly, obviously just like the soccer part and being with my teammates and just like, the random bus rides. Or I remember we went to California my freshman year and we got to
Wow,
stay
yeah.
there for like a week because it was before school started. And it was just so fun to be able to be with all the girls and, just like meeting everyone,
Mm-hmm.
different team activities. And then also we went to Colorado, which is somewhere I probably just like wouldn't have gone on my own. And we went
Yeah,
hiking there. And so it's just, things that I probably wouldn't have done on my own or wouldn't have thought to do that
right.
soccer provided me with the opportunity to do are probably the memories that stick out the most.
Those trips, I mean, like I saw like the South Dakota State women's team, like, oh, we went to Hawaii for a week and a half last fall. And like
Yeah.
the NDSU, we're going to teaser to people. We want to connect with some of the NDSU players for North Dakota State because they're in England right now doing
Really?
so yeah, it's some cool,
Yeah.
that's the thing about, D1 women's soccer. You get to do some things even like, pro teams might not do because
Exactly.
that's cool. Where did you most like to play? Was it like Michigan because of that connection, or like what were the best away trips or rivalries that stick with you from college?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. I honestly would have to say probably Ann Arbor, yeah.
Uh,
I remember like I think it was my freshman year or sophomore year. One year I think we were close to like a sold out crowd because it was like a night game, I think it was like a
uh-huh.
Saturday night or something, like 7 p.m. under the lights, and it was just the atmosphere. Like I love playing in like big under like super big games and like under the
Right.
lights and stuff like that. It's just like it gets me just excited.
Yeah. The Aurora opener is a Thursday night,
I
Kristelle. So I don't.
know. I
It'll probably
saw
be
that.
sunny, I guess, but it'll be incredible. Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
fun.
I saw that and I was like, okay, that's exciting.
It's a good mix of like some weekend games, I think, where middle of the day, and also like there's a Friday night, I think. So those
Mm-hmm.
it should be really fun. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm curious, like when you mentioned it a bit, so I don't know if anything to expand on, but talk about your experience playing in summer leagues before. I know you played, but just talk about, like you said before, kind of what you notice as the difference and I guess it kind of centers around the term pre-professional, right? But that it's kind of broad term. So I'm curious for you, like your sense already of how it will be different than when you did, WPSL or something else.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I know like when I first did the summer league, it also was for a new team, and so they were like working really hard to like make it the best team it could be, just because we wanted to stay around for a little bit. So it was honestly probably one of like the best teams I've played on. Everyone was just good. We just like clicked, We practiced a lot, so it made sense, but the connection was just there, and I guess it's just like a different type of playing, because kind of at Michigan State, I feel like a lot of the girls are from Michigan naturally. A lot of girls had played like on Hawks or stuff like that together, and so sometimes I feel like there's the same style of play within teams, but then with this team, like we had some girls from the Mexican like women's national team. One player I remember, we had some girls from like the under like 23 or like U19 Mexican women's national team, and just like what they brought with them, like playing wise and even just like life wise, was just so interesting to like learn from and then just see different ways.
Yeah.
And then I had the other team I played for, I think it was like going into my senior year, and that team was a little bit more relaxed but still like very competitive. But I think it was because people, just had so much going on that summer. So I feel like it was always kind of like random girls coming in and playing. So we didn't really have as much of a cohesiveness. Yeah. But I feel like the way that the Aurora team is set up, it's going to be way more cohesive.
Yeah.
And like people are very committed to the team, So
yeah.
And like excited, obviously, and like nobody wants to be bad. So
yeah, it'll be competitive, I'm sure. And I did, just a warning for your scheduling. Yeah, when I talked to Nicole, the head coach, she said, in contrast to maybe what other summer leagues are, she's like, we definitely want our team together in some way, like 6 or 7 days a week. So yeah, it's real stuff. And and she said both in terms of work, with the soccer side, but also being able to do connecting with each other, especially given that you have a lot of different players who've kind of played together, but overall, you haven't been a team together. So I'm sure that'll be important. Yeah. And speaking of that, I mean, it's not like you're so far off. There's some players who have played like regionally close to you. I'm curious, I didn't dig, but are there players on the team you played in college or that you played, growing up? Did you recognize anybody?
I remembered, I am really bad with names, but she went to Minnesota. And I for sure played against her. Yes.
Was it Franzen? I don't know. There's a couple Gophers on the squad, yeah.
I honestly cannot remember her name, but I remember her face. Like I saw her and I was like, oh, okay. I definitely played against you.
And what was her game? Do you remember what she did to you on the field?
I couldn't tell you. That was like, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure. And then, I mean, there's tryouts coming up, so you'll see some more players join too, I know, later this month. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
So I do. So we.
Oops, sorry. It just cut off a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Do you know folks who are trying out still for the team or trying to make Aurora?
I do not. Like, I really don't know many people in Minnesota besides, like, dental school people. So, yeah, I don't really know.
So talk about that, because we mentioned it, but it makes you unique. And also it's something, I think it's like, a piece of your leadership, that you're a person with like goals and that you're achieving those goals. So, I mean, talk about when you made the decision to be a dentist.
Honestly, since I was young, I always had like liked going to the dentist and wanted to go there. And I remember I told my dad one time, he was just like, you should be a dentist. And it stuck, stuck with me. I went to college. I was like, we'll see if this is what I really want to do. Got to college. Like, I like science a lot as well. And then I majored in kinesiology because I was interested in learning just, about like the body and being an athlete. I wanted to see how I could like maximize everything with my body, with like fuel, food, and like just things like that. And then I realized I could use that and then also still take like the pre-dental requirements. And the love for it, I guess, just never went away. And I'm a super hands-on person, and I always knew I wanted to be like in the medical field, but my mom is a doctor, and I didn't want to do that because I wanted more of like a work and life balance. And I remembered like, some of my teammates, their parents were like dentists, and they were at every game, like always at the games. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I like that.
They
So
do they do kind of business hours, don't they, dent? I
yeah,
never thought about that.
yep,
Nice. Yeah, that
yeah,
does make a difference. A huge, and
yes,
still in the same income sphere as a doctor.
exactly.
I was gonna say, well, that makes sense. Your mom's a doctor because I saw you tweeted about this. I think is it your sister just got into med school or something like that?
Yeah, so she actually, I'm not gonna be at the tryouts this weekend because I'm going home because
Uh-huh.
she is gonna find out she's matched with a residency, so
Uh-huh.
she's gonna find out where she's spending the next 4 years.
Oh, nice. So
Hmm.
she's ahead of you. Yeah, she's
Yep,
gone through her. Okay, right
she's a
on.
year ahead of me, so she's graduating in May.
Hmm. That's wow.
Yep,
That's yeah. That's is it competitive or is it just a good big sister little sister dynamic?
just a big sister little sister dynamic.
Because you're in the same area, you know. Yeah, but
Exactly.
well, yeah, I think you're both doing pretty well for yourselves. And then, do you have another sibling? Do you have a
Yes, I
brother?
have an older brother. He's like the oldest of the family, and he is an investment banker, so he's in Chicago right now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Sorry, Kristelle.
It's okay.
We're dealing. I appreciate it very much. So, and yeah, high achieving siblings. I love that. And clearly, your parents. Did you? I mean, tell me about your parents. Must have set a sort of standard to see you
Oh
all
yeah,
achieve in such a way.
they for sure did.
Enough said, right? Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
tell me.
it's like I have African parents, if that means anything to people, foreign
Mhm.
parents.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, well, so I mean, it's obviously it's like they went. They have done a lot to get you to where you are. So of course, yeah, I'm sure
Exactly.
you felt you were maybe both told and felt the expectation of that.
Exactly.
Right
It
on.
was,
Well,
yeah.
but they must. I mean, they clearly. I mean, they're proud you're being a dentist, but it sounds like they love, your passion for sports too, and end up getting to see you, enjoy that part of it. Do you think they'll end up coming? They must be in Michigan still. Do you think they'll end up seeing any of your games, maybe in Chicago?
I honestly wonder. I might. It's so funny because I remember, like I was telling you earlier, that I played in these teams before, so I was just like, oh, it's like not really like a big deal, like whatever. And then they're like, oh, we're gonna be like announcing you guys like player announcers. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should tell my parents I'm like playing on a soccer team. And so like, I remember I called my dad. I was like, yeah, like those teams I used to play on in the summer. I'm actually gonna go back and do it again. And he just starts laughing and he's like, you just really couldn't give it up. And I'm like, nope.
Well, I think your dad, he's probably in for a surprise because I don't think, yeah, they don't know what to expect because when you see the first stream of this game, I mean, if the opener is anywhere close to sold out, I think it's going to look pretty incredible too. So
Yeah.
it's like they might get the itch then because at least, I mean, it's nice you play in Chicago at least once,
Mm-hmm.
so that's closer. But
Yep. And then my brother's in Chicago too, so that'd be nice for them to come to that game as well.
yeah, awesome. Well, and
Mm-hmm.
so I gotta do a couple other. Well, and I want to ask you, you've gone back to Cameroon, right? Talk about like going back regularly with your family, what that's like.
So I went back. My dad is a professor, so he takes students. Well, before COVID and everything, he would take them every 2 years because
Mm-hmm.
he taught a class that was like Africa, like myth versus reality. So
Okay.
they learn about the myth in the books in school, and then he shows them the reality on the trip.
Uh-huh.
And so I went back. It was 2018 because it was right when after I graduated, and I still have like a lot of family back there.
Mm-hmm.
So mostly those trips just consist of me like going from door to door visiting family. Might not even know who they are, but they
Mm-hmm.
obviously know me. So I'm just like,
Uh-huh.
okay, like yeah, see a lot. I get to see like a lot of my cousins though, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just like always a good time going back. And this time around, my parents had built a home there, so we were going to
Mm-hmm.
kind of see that. So yeah.
That's exciting. Do
Hmm.
you go back? Do you play soccer with your cousins then? I mean, Cameroon is soccer crazy.
I know they are, but no, not really. I think we don't even like honestly have time because we're always just like traveling, just
Yeah.
going to see like family all over. People, when family knows we're coming, everyone's like hosting something. So
Yeah. Well, that's
mhm.
cool. That's exciting. I hope you get to go back soon. And I'm sure especially for your parents, maybe it was tough during COVID not being able to go back and see folks when they normally would have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Tell me, where does your dad teach?
He teaches at Albion College, like a small school in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. You got some high achieving parents, Kristelle. Yeah.
So I
so
have heard.
so you've heard. Well, you're high achieving as well. So I mean, look, here we are. And now, you know, your parents don't play on a pre-professional soccer team. So
Exactly.
that's just you. So I want to
Exactly.
do a couple of rapid fires, just of some simple questions, both soccer and kind of off field stuff. So
Ooh.
who is your favorite soccer player, Kristelle?
My favorite soccer player. I honestly hate this question. I
Ah,
will
you can list
say,
many. You can list multiple.
ooh, um, Alex Morgan
Uh huh.
and Julie Ertz,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think those are my top two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, especially with Alex Morgan, you play forward or at least advanced in the field. So yeah, when she did the T celebration,
I know,
it was too good, man. I mean, it was too.
honestly.
She's great. Yeah, I love
Yes.
it. I also love. I have a lot of respect for her. She's married to a former MLS player who was kind of just like a squad player, and I love it because he's just totally, I think, a stay-at-home dad for her now.
I
She's
know.
like, let Alex do her thing. She's making money. She's the great player. I'll be a dad. I love it. It's a great
Exactly.
couple. I find it adorable. What's your favorite food, Kristelle? And if you don't have favorite food, just what do you miss from being home or being, around family to eat?
Ooh, my favorite food, honestly, anything Mediterranean is just
Uh-huh.
like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's like usually my go-to.
Do you miss, like, do your parents normally cook like some Cameroonian food when you're home that you
Yeah, my
don't miss?
mom does make a lot of Cameroonian food,
Mm-hmm. What's the main go-to, like,
like
dish
the
that?
rice and stew for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
That's always good. Can
Yeah.
never complain about that one.
Oh, and in Minnesota winter, that sounds like something you might need. Yeah.
Exactly.
That sounds good. Um, when did you come to Minnesota? Have you been here a couple of years?
I got here August of 2019.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you were here before COVID started. But yeah,
Yeah.
what's your favorite? I mean, Minnesota and Michigan are not exactly polar opposites, but what's your
hmm
favorite part of being in Minnesota?
Honestly, the summers and how outdoorsy people are here.
Mm-hmm.
I just like love going out in the summer. I feel like everyone's always like walking around. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
like bike trails and like
Mm-hmm.
rollerblading places, especially around the lakes. So
Yeah.
I really like, I'll say the lakes too, then.
Yeah,
I
for
really like
sure.
that.
Because you're in Minneapolis, probably, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that is sweet. Even though it's like they're very popular, but it's like it's so nice to be able to just go swim and go. Yeah,
Exactly.
it is nice. Yeah, it's a lot of outdoor culture. It's almost, yeah. Even if it's for show, people are obsessed with it.
Exactly.
We're desperate by summertime. And if you weren't a soccer player, and I know obviously like you're probably going to be a dentist, so it's not that. But if you weren't a soccer player, what athlete would you be? And I'm sure you played sports in high school. I think maybe you played basketball.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would be a basketball player for sure. I love basketball.
Yeah. Did you play it all of high school?
I did.
Wow. I mean, honestly, a lot of players who are like on the D1 path for soccer or another sport start like being specific too. Like what,
hmm
yeah. But I think honestly, it helps certain like American athletes that they play the multiple sports. And like, do you think anything matches up from basketball into your soccer game?
Decision making. I
Yeah.
was a point guard, so
Mm-hmm.
I think that honestly helped a lot, even just with, like seeing the floor and being able
Mm-hmm.
to like see things before they happen.
Yeah. I think it's
hmm
also kind of like oddly, it's kind of a lot about like body, like holding your space, like rebounding and defensive, like not being pushed off the ball and not being,
Exactly.
so there's always something. Even it's yeah,
hmm
yeah. That's yeah. How good were you on it? Like what was your game was passing and distributing, or were you driving to the hole? Were you shooting? What were you doing?
A little bit of the both. For sure, passing, distributing, driving to the hole when I needed to. And
Mm-hmm.
then, I mean, I was honestly like at one point between basketball and soccer for college. Like
Mm-hmm.
thinking hard, like really strongly considering basketball, but I was just better at soccer,
Mm-hmm.
and like basketball in college is tough.
What type of opportunities did you have, or were you thinking that you'd have for basketball?
Like I had like, random like D2, D3
Uh-huh.
schools.
Uh-huh.
I think like a Mac D1 school, but it was just like probably the letter they send out to like, every basketball player type of thing. But I never played like travel basketball, and I feel like that's where you
Yeah,
get like really recruited. So
right.
yeah,
Not like AAU and so yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So I mean, it's already the multi-talent basketball, soccer, and med school, but I'm curious, what's a talent? People probably just think you're doing homework and training for soccer all the time. What's a talent you have that we wouldn't know, like outside of that stuff?
I can play the piano.
Okay.
That's one of my talents.
Hmm.
What else can I do? Wow, thinking about this makes me feel not talented.
We went down the list always first. Don't worry. Yeah.
I can't even think right now. Like I feel like playing the piano and then
Hmm.
like sports are what I have.
Yeah. Well, I think you've done pretty good with it. What- uh, and so I saw you also. I couldn't help but notice, like, since you signed and started following you on Twitter, that you're tweeting about The Bachelor, and so I need to ask if in the current season, I'm not watching the current season. I've watched it before. Are there villains or heroes of the season you need to call out? Are there people you're rooting for, or someone you want to put out on blast?
Rooting for Gabby, Team Gabby over here all the way.
Okay.
Love that girl. And I hope things work out for her, even if she doesn't win, that she is the next bachelorette.
Is she the one from Minnesota, or was it the previous Bachelorette? The previous
It was a
Bachelorette was from Minnesota,
yeah,
right?
it was the previous one. I remember seeing her like out and about a couple times, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm such a fan.
She went on, and one of the contestants, I know because I'm a Gopher basketball fan, was Joe Coleman, who had like played. So like
Yeah.
he was from the Gopher basketball team. So I was like, I mean, this, I'm sure already, and maybe Michigan is the same. In Minnesota, we're obsessed with finding when we get recognition and big ups. So we're like, Minnesota, like, we lose our minds.
Yes.
So then the question is, would you be on The Bachelor or Bachelorette? What would you prefer? I mean, maybe it's obvious, but I don't know.
mm, I don't think I'd be able to be the bachelorette. It's just like a lot of
Too
decision
much.
making.
You,
Yeah, like
you start
I
with like 30. It's so many to start
it
with.
would be too hard. I would be on the bachelor potential. Well, like if you asked me 4 years ago, I would
Uh-huh.
say yes. But now it's
Uh-huh.
just like a little so I don't think I
And, and
would.
and guess what? In a couple years, you'll age out because all those people are like 23.
I I already feel too old almost to be on it.
Once you watch it and you're old, and then you're like, oh gosh, I didn't need to be getting engaged when I was 22. It's like,
Yeah. I mean, even now, like 25, I'm like, wow. I remember seeing some of these girls and they were 25 when I was watching it when I'm like 18, and I'm like,
uh,
whoa, like they're so old.
like, I'm ready to settle down. Like,
Exactly.
I've been unlucky in love. Like, you're 23.
Yeah. Or it's like I've never actually been in love, but I know I'm ready to get married.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's great. Now, see, just talking about it, now I'm gonna watch. Now I'm gonna be pulled into the next season. But yeah, that's great. Well, Kristelle, really appreciate you joining us. Is there anything else you want to add? Just about the upcoming season. I think people are excited and happy you're our second player to get interviewed from Aurora. So we're excited to get the rest of your teammates too. But is there anything you want to, any parting words you want to say, or any dental advice for us?
Just that I'm excited for this season, and thank you for everyone for all the support and people that have already bought tickets. I
Mhm.
think it's going to be a really fun summer. And also remember to floss and brush
Okay.
twice a day.
Okay, good. And I know that's right, but I needed to be reminded. So
Yes,
I needed a professional. So thank you, Kristelle.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. That was Kristelle, and we will find you next time with some more members of the Minnesota Aurora FC team, hopefully coming soon.